Welcome back to Black Sheep and Bad Apples. I'm your host, Lauren O'Brien, and tonight we're going to be talking about the 12 Tribes cult or community, depends on how you want to frame it. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce my co-host and producer, Mr. Sean Hill.
Well, hey there, all right.
Hey there, all right, yes.
How's it going tonight?
It's going good, we'll get to that.
Okay.
And we got a special guest tonight, Ms. Eunice. How are
Hi,
you doing?
how's it going, guys?
Doing-
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, how's everyone doing tonight? How's everyone feeling?
Good, pretty chill.
Feeling pretty good? Yeah.
A little spunky.
A little spunky.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, Eunice, you work or do things at the art shop. And at the very top, I would like to plug all that before we get any further. Do you have any place where people could find your art before we get into
Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? A little.
Yes, most certainly.
Brief
So
bio.
mainly, I do jewelry at the art shop, silversmithing. Also work with leather. I do customized pieces, whatever people feel like doing or gifting for a loved one or a friend. My page, you can find me on Instagram. It's EDPDSGN, as in EDP Design. Yeah, just hit me with anything, and I'll try to make it work.
Go check out her art. And while we're on art, why don't we check out some of my art? But again, before we get into this, I want to let our listeners know that tonight's show is going to have some discussions about like child abuse and child exploitation. It's not an episode that's suitable for everyone, and it's going to get a little graphic. But I tried my best to include necessary details without being gratuitous and indulgent with them. So listener discretion is advised. Because again, as I said, tonight we're talking about the cult of the 12 tribes, and they've got a bunch of different names that we'll kind of go a little bit through. And I think they changed that. Like they've got a lot of names. We'll get into it.
Tonight's episode is for mature audiences only.
Indeed. Yeah, and they're a group that takes their followers' money so they can like build industries and businesses. They treat their members horribly, as we'll get into, and yeah, they've become kind of prolific throughout the years and have kind of like spread slowly and quietly. And yeah, so the 12 tribes were started by a single, I would argue, angry man named Elbert Eugene Spriggs.
That's the name of the cult?
No, that's his name.
No, 12 tribes.
12 tribes. That's what their current name is. Again, they have a couple of names throughout the
current.
years.
So they still are.
They still are the
Yeah,
12
they still
tribes, yeah.
exist.
Yeah. And so Elbert Eugene Spriggs, not Albert, Elbert, E. Elbert, yeah, was born in 1937 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Elbert, who went by the name Gene, which I would argue is better, was the son of a factory quiller and a scoutmaster. They were Methodists, and some sources say Spriggs attended church 3 times a week. It's kind of hard, like...
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. He studied at the University of Chattanooga and graduated with a degree in psychology, which will be very funny, I think, later. So let's put a pin in that. At some point later in life, it's kind of like his early life details are kind of hard. So at some point later in life, we know he worked as a teacher, a guidance counselor, a tour director, a plant manager, and he did a brief stint as what's described as a carnival worker, which I think is like he was kind of a carny or something, sold food. Maybe even security. I don't know.
Said he was also involved in the Boy Scouts.
His dad was a scoutmaster.
Oh, his dad.
Well,
okay.
rather it says that he was the son of a factory quiller, which I don't know what that is, and a scoutmaster.
Oh, okay.
So I'm assuming maybe his mom worked at a factory, but again, it's kind of hard to get a lot of stuff about
Gotcha.
him. And so he was born in 37, but up until about 71, like the details kind of are really sparse, and that's why his kind of early life is a little vague. But what we do know is that he joined the Maranatha Chapel and Center Theater in Glendale, California in 1971. So he was born in Chattanooga and did, I think, like the kind of hippie lone traveler thing and ended up in again, Glendale, California. This again was in 1971 when he was 34. By this point, he had been married and divorced thrice, and he decided to dedicate himself to God, declaring, quote, "God made me a new creature." And so again, we can assume like a little bit of wanderlust or like finding his place to be, but again, we have no idea what he was doing during this time. it is like the lost generation era, and like the whole hippie Jesus movement is kind of coming out of the 60s.
Gonna say it sounds like he was trying to find his God.
Yeah, and so yeah, so we do know he found this charismatic church and theater and kind of sort of fell like head over heels for it. After a time, for some reason or another, it kind of just stopped being a church and disbanded. And after the church disbanded, he moved back to back to Chattanooga with his new wife, Marcia Ann Duval. And this was where we're able to start learning a little bit more about his life and some more details. So Marcia Duval, and you know they say her name is Marcia Ann Duval, but they also call her Marcia Spriggs. So I'm not sure if she like ever changed her name or if there's like some, I don't know, some weird
This is
reporting
his
on
first
that.
wife.
This is his third or fourth wife now.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a
Damn.
Christian guy, that's a lot of women.
Yeah.
That's-
Well, and again, it sounds like in like 71, he stopped like fucking around and dedicated himself to God. And God made me a new creature. But that's also like what he said. And so grain of salt that a little
These
bit.
kind of people tend to believe they're their own gods, though.
Yeah, well, and I imagine he's 34, right, at this time. And so like Lost Generation, there's like the Lonesome Traveler, there's also like people with LSD, like.
So we would say that maybe his fourth wife was his first wife under God, if that makes sense.
I think that's a fair assessment,
Yeah.
and I think that's a fair assessment due to what's about to happen.
Gotcha.
Because it was there in his hometown in Chattanooga, he and his wife set up a coffee shop operating it right out of their house. They named it the Light Brigade. So he comes back to Chattanooga, sets up kind of like a little almost church. And it was a small coffee house where they would operate a cafe in the day and have like a Bible study twice a week during the evening. It is, as all churches do, as all churches do rather, started small, but it attracted all sorts of people during that time. Guests to the coffee shop found the place friendly and kind, and the kind, charismatic staff were very helpful. People who were lost, wanderers, seekers could find a place to be, a place that expected them, a place that welcomed them and could guide them. And you could even get a job here and work there and you know, earn housing and board and stuff like that. And so the people who worked there often invited patrons to attend Bible study in the evenings to kind of bring them into the group, you know.
What were their teachings about?
It started kind of, I mean, I don't know exactly what this era was, but it started off kind of Christian and I believe Presbyterian. Like they were kind of like a hippie version of the Presbyterian church. And so I think that they were kind of maybe a little fast and loose. And also Spriggs is kind of at this time discovering his ability to be more of a cult leader and manipulator. So he knows how to manipulate the word of the Lord, if you will. And so they are Christian and they follow like the Jesus part of the Christianity. But I don't really know at this point. I
He's
know
kind
they're
of
just-
developing his public speaking skills
that's
at this point.
That's kind of what it seems like, yeah. Because again, during this time, we get a little bit of like what they were doing and how things were building, but up until a little bit later, we don't really get a whole lot of his like kind of teachings.
Okay.
And obviously, he did have teachings at this time, but you know, I didn't find any in my research. I spent 9 hours yesterday finishing this episode, so.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, some of these Bible studies extended late into the night and sometimes early morning. So eventually people decided to bring their sleeping bags. And at some point during 1972, people just kind of moved in with Gene and Marcia Spriggs.
Ew, that's a little bit obsessive.
Well, and like I think they started like working at their coffee shop too, so that they could spend more time. And so, yeah, the Light Brigade eventually became kind of like a communal living thing, and eventually Gene and Marcia Spriggs had enough money to open the Yellow Deli somewhere around the same time. Now, that restaurant is still around today, and there's a bunch of them around the world. And their menu serves things like sandwiches and burgers, salads, hot dogs, smoothies, breakfast kind of stuffs. And they theme it kind of like a handwritten menu from like the flowery 60s. And they even have things like the Yellow Submarine, which I assume is a sandwich. And it's kind of like they're trying to play into really that like hippie psychedelia. And this is also like their recruiting base. Like, so they're bringing members into their church and then putting them to work. and then getting them to invite other people in too. So the first page of their menu also has it just says the Yellow Deli, and then underneath it says, "We serve the fruit of the Spirit. Why not ask?"
What?
Your
I
face, Eunice, that was great. Your eyes just exploded open.
It's a pretty catchy phrase to run with. Like,
It's
I'm
so
gonna
open
ask
for
questions.
interpretation, though.
Yeah.
If I showed up at this eatery for the first time, I would be inclined to inquire on.
What is the fruit of the Spirit?
Is that a number
love
2,
to.
or is that like is that a menu item? Is that cold, fresh cut deli meat?
And I
Is
wonder what
that-
happens when you activate that.
Are you just very eccentric about how you speak about your like nice cheeses? Like what's?
Oh, well, I imagine it's kind of a marketing ploy, you know. It's like, well, the fruit of the spirit of the fruit of the Lord, or whatever it is, you know. It's like, we go and study this, and we read the Bible, and we've got this thing where you're welcome to attend. We do all sorts of fun shit. You eat at the end of it, you know, and they do like this really warm and inviting thing where it's like, oh, are you traveling? Do you have a place to stay? Well, we can bring you in. There's no obligation, and you can work it off if you need to. And it's about like really trying to bring like, you know, it's kind of their hook, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like soul healing almost.
Yeah.
You know? It's like you're going to a yoga session, or
Be
Yeah.
like, so is
gonna
there
have a
alcohol
sandwich?
or
What's going
no
on?
alcohol?
Strictly no alcohol. Which we'll get into a little while later, because there's some bad shit that's said about alcohol and Irish people. Anyway, the Light Brigade caused like kind of a bit of a stir by attending the First Presbyterian Church, the very first Presbyterian congregation that in Chattanooga. So it's very old school, you know what I mean? And this is still at the end of part of the 70s, where we don't really like black people in our churches. So it's a
Gotcha.
yeah. And since Light
You
Brigade,
could say it racist.
yeah, it was pretty racist, yeah. And it's also Tennessee too. So, and since the Light Brigade was accepting of all social and racial classes at the time, and showed up in overalls and long hair and beards and with their African American disciples, the all-white church had been like irked by this, but they didn't really they weren't gonna like bother them, and that, at least that's what it seemed. It seemed like maybe they got some like chastisement, hanging out with the N-words or whatever, you know, they would say at the time, but it doesn't seem like they were harassed too much. And so the Light Brigade eventually left mainstream religion when they went to church on January 12th, 1975. And they found the church closed for the weekend for Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh my god.
Well,
Priority.
they were like, we know that everybody's gonna show up with a little TV, handheld TV, and just be bitching the whole time. So
Singing half-assed.
yeah, go, yeah.
And so this was a severe moral corruption in the eyes of Eugene Spriggs. The Light Brigade they just kind of moved back to their house and eventually various houses, and began holding Sunday services themselves, hosted in one of the communal houses or in the local park, kind of both sometimes. And this eventually turned into the Vine Community Church. And Spriggs, fed up with everyone's bullshit, had begun just baptizing his flock in the local church. And he also began observing the Jewish custom of observing the Saturday Sabbath. So this is where we start to learn a little bit more about their ideology, and they're starting to like kind of get into the Jewish aspect of the Judeo-Christian religion. Yeah, it's interesting. And after he began baptizing and preaching was when like the Christian community in Chattanooga, they were just like, fuck this guy, what is he doing? And that's kind of in summary. And this was due to the fact that no church had given him, nor had recognized his rights to baptize anybody or to be any kind of preacher. And under the church's, rules or laws or whatever, it just he wasn't a preacher, pastor, or whatever they called themselves.
A fish. He didn't. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, he wasn't ordained, I guess would be the word. And some reports have even said that he, quote, called the churches today the great whores of Babylon. So we're starting to see like a little bit more of how he and that's why I'm saying like I think he was a pretty angry person. Like you get a little bit of that in kind of the way that he does a lot of these things, but that it's been really hard to find any of his actual like words online, and like I think the 12 tribes have done a good job of like making sure they seem pretty good, other than the news outlets that cover them. So
If anything, it sounds almost like a mockery to his ideology once when he was little, you know, considering he went
Yeah.
to church 3 times a week. You know, he probably just got fed up with it and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna do this my way.
well, and
You
they all,
know, and just
and-
like retaliate against the actual religion, maybe.
yeah, and that, well, I think it's a little bit of retaliation, but I think it's also there's a line in the church that, or a line in the Bible that they quote a lot. I don't know it by heart, but it's something along the lines of like, church isn't a building. It's you know, when you have communion with your fellowship, and it's, you know, and so I think a part of this is him being like, no, I don't need a church to call myself a church. I don't need a religion to recognize me, because I'm going to do what I want, and I'm currently making a lot of money doing it. Because again, these people are working at like the Yellow Deli. They're working at this cafe, and you know, they're getting paid room and board essentially. So yeah, it seems like he's trying to ordain himself, I guess, and it's kind of a true sign of a cult leader, if you ask me. So Gene Spriggs and the Vine Community Church parted ways with the various, you know, corrupt churches and their evil denominations, and kind of began to focus on their business and ministries. Their extreme ideologies had alienated them from the official church, and the stories of harsh working conditions from former members had started to leak out. And soon, they had built a reputation in Chattanooga. They had been getting so well known that it attracted people like Ted Patrick, the cult deprogrammer who was famous for his daring attempts at deprogramming. He was often criticized, as we discussed in our other episode about kind of the overview of cults. And he was kind of criticized for his brash handling of cult members. His methods were often traumatizing, where he would kidnap and detain people for sometimes days on end. And yeah, it wasn't the best thing for people. And Patrick would attempt to convert 8 Vine Church / 12 Tribes members. So that was a cool little detail that I stumbled upon. But no matter the bad press, Spriggs, Vine Community Church, and their yellow delis would ignore it and push on towards success. They eventually expanded and opened another deli in Chattanooga's downtown. And there's kind of a couple more shops that they're opening at this time, but I don't want to focus so much on how much they're expanding and kind of how they're expanding here. So the story is going to not necessarily follow their expansion rate, but their community itself, because it's, yeah, bad. But that beer was good.
If you're a nonprofit, you got to put your overhead somewhere,
Yeah.
or your extra earnings. I mean to say.
Yeah. I would describe him more as a CEO, because he's kind of living the high life here too. So, and not necessarily here, but yeah, you'll see it. So a few years later, in 1978, Spriggs was asked to minister at another church in Island Pond, Vermont. The Island Pond Christian community had been kind of stagnant, and wanted Gene to come up and to kind of help them be inspired into like this new way to worship Jesus, kind of be self-sustaining with their own farms that they were kind of building at this time in order to feed the Yellow Deli business, and to kind of follow the Bible to the Spriggs' T. And so Spriggs declined the invitation to go to Vermont, but rather than go up there, he would send some of his followers to go up there and help. Now, it was hard to find a lot of information about the 12 tribes. So a lot of the research that we did that I found was kind of fawning about their stuff. So a lot of the stuff is just a little bit murky, but I'm going to kind of keep trying to wade through it. Because through their expansion, Chattanooga had been kind of criticizing the Vine Church. And at this point, a lot of people knew about them. And like, as former members would leave, the stories were kind of spilling out, and like the veil was being lifted.
Did you happen to find in your research why he called the church the Vine Church, and why it's called the 12 Tribes? Does that have any relation to, let's say, something in the Bible, or...
The 12 tribes I know has something to do directly with the 12 tribes of the Israel.
The Israelites?
Yeah, Israelites. Okay. Thank you. And later we're going to get into it, but he describes them as like scattered after Jesus left.
Okay, so what I'm wondering
Abraham
is
left,
if this
and
has to do with... I was actually just reading up on this, and it's the book of Judges in the Bible, and it's about, I can't remember the one specifically, but about how they fight the Canaanites and going around and it's multiple tribes, and that's why you say 12, and I'm like, okay, I need to count that again because I was just reading on it.
It might be that
and I'm pretty sure it is 12 tribes, and it was all about trying to defeat the Canaanites and Israelites pushing their foreground. But
Yeah,
more or less, it's like a weird start to a story that's like they asked
from my
God how to
understand-
go kill a bunch of people so they could conquer land.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, doesn't that contradict the whole thing?
Well,
and
from my
stuff?
understanding, this is kind of after the Assyrians took the Israeli how do you say it again?
Israelites.
Israelites. Why is that so hard for me to say? But after the Assyrians kind of conquered them, the 12 tribes of Israel are the people that scattered away from that, from my understanding. And so the initial nation of Jesus, the one that that held him to be the highest thing, was destroyed. Now the rest of the world is full of sin. There's no safe place for the true tribes of Jesus to exist. That's my understanding of kind of his philosophy. And so they're kind of like trying to be self-sustaining and to be able to, bring this into fruition, which actually comes a little later. It's a little bit of a spoiler, not too big a one because it gets really
okay.
drastic. But
That definitely answers my question, though. I was wondering, I was like, what's the 12 tribes thing? Is that because it sounds weird at first,
it is
but then
biblical.
knowing some biblical stuff,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense when it comes to that.
So
okay.
the local community had begun to notice that the Vine Christian Community Church would lure in young, impressionable people. As the people's interest blossomed, they would have them isolated and assimilated into their way of doing things via a communal house or a farm, sometimes both. Sometimes they would just work the yellow deli. And they would indoctrinate them and then force them to work for sometimes 90 hours a week without pay. Their pay was, quote, room and board. Since Vine Christian Community Church and their workers lived and worked as a commune, nobody got paid at all. All money was put into the collective pot, and it's alleged that the Vine Church kept their members on a low-protein diet, probably to keep them tired and unable to think for themselves.
Wow.
So I'm going to read from encyclopedia.com's write-up of the cult that would later become the 12 tribes. Quote, the 12 tribes have come to believe that they are the restoration of the Messianic Hebrew New Testament community from the 1st century BCE, which is what I was talking about a minute ago. This belief evolved through the members' study of the Bible and personal experiences. They reject the white bread Christianity of mainstream churches that worship a remote, impersonal God and does not sustain the soul. And they replace it, both literally and symbolically, with the whole grain, home-baked bread of their living communal church. That seems to bring out the return and loving union with Yahshua, Jesus. The community attempts to restore the New Testament church by developing a physical and artistic culture that interprets 1st century Messianic Judaism in 21st century terms. They are divided into tribes that correspond to their geographic locations. Men grow full beards, and women cover their heads with scarves, following the Jewish custom. The church community members follow a strict code of ethics, dress, and diet, and must surrender to the hierarchical authority that it descends from God through, this is my little insert here, Spriggs, our cult leader. So it descends through God, Spriggs, the elders, the teachers, the fathers, and the mothers to the children, and in that order. Continuing to quote, the 12 tribes is dedicated to ushering them in the millennium by raising up a people who are truly loving and free of sin and selfishness. The church defines itself as the pure and spotless bride of Revelation, the book of Revelation, who is preparing for the return of her king, Yahshua, the second coming, end quote. So that gives us a little, like they're kind of building that Jewish nation again, because Jesus hasn't come, and they kind of want him to, but it's they're also transitioning in beliefs a lot of this time too. So yeah, super
So it's
weird.
like a Christian foundation, but with
It is because that's very common. The whole the coming of Jesus, like you have the apocalypse. It's basically like, we're taking all of the people that are devoting themselves to God and Jesus, and then we're just leaving everyone on earth to die, basically at the hands of the devil.
they're trying to kind of though adopt some Jewish foundations to their fundamentals and stuff.
And I think as Spriggs is kind of going along and changing his beliefs, I think what he's doing is kind of trying to fit things into how he wants people to operate and work around him. I don't think it has to do with his actual beliefs, but I think he's so much of not really charismatic. I would kind of think that he would be intimidating to a degree. His kind of his stature is kind of what makes you real like that's what enforces these beliefs and
The
these,
old hard handshake at church.
kind of, yeah. Um, and so as the Yellow Deli and Vine Community Church began expanding, Spriggs was beginning to notice that he needed more space for all of his new converts and began using that money to purchase and renovate houses in the area. All renovation was done by the church members, who were, as usual, not paid for their work. Local churches began to clap back against the rising tide of the Vine Christian Community Church. A local Methodist preacher, which was, his denomination before he got all weird, began putting anti-cult signs out in front of the preacher's church and urged people to not interact with the Spriggs followers. Another pastor would claim that the Vine Church, quote, twisted the scripture and used them to scare their followers to death. Still more accused the church of brainwashing and exploiting their members.
Or scared them to work.
Yes. Yeah, because it is this apocalyptic, like, if you don't do what I do, if you don't listen to what I say, because again, it goes God, me, you guys. So, like, if you don't do what I say, God's going to...
He's the middleman.
He's gonna fuck you
I
up.
get it, yeah.
And seeing the heat turn up in Tennessee, Spriggs wanted to go somewhere that he hadn't spoiled his chance to indoctrinate more people. He was too well known, and it was becoming difficult to attract any new members since the campaign to keep people away from Spriggs' followers had started. So in March of 1979, Spriggs and the Vine Community Church sold almost all of their properties and businesses in and near Chattanooga. They would take all their cash and move up to Island Pond, Vermont. And they weren't just going to move somewhere and start over either. They had help in Vermont. A couple identified as Malachi and Rebecca had joined their church 4 years prior and then had relocated to Vermont with Spriggs' teachings, where they had kind of developed kind of his cult there. And so they moved there and kind of like needed these guys, like Doe needed them into being like, oh yeah, now Spriggs is moving here. And so it was also pretty powerful too, because Malachi and Rebecca, which is the only thing that I know them, like that's the only record I could find of their names. But they were like influential. They were kind of prominent people. And since they'd been sharing their experiences with the Vine Community Church with friends and neighbors, they had kind of built up their own small community. And as the couples had moved into the Island Pond, continued to use Spriggs' methods of cult development, their success allowed them to buy a restaurant on Main Street, which they named Common Sense.
Of course.
So, and I find this part to be, yeah. So Spriggs and his followers were frustrated with Chattanooga, and I'm going to read from, quote, the 12 tribes preparing the bride for Yahshua's return. And this is written by Susan J. Palmer. Quote, 2 years after his departure from Tennessee, Gene Spriggs made a last desperate attempt to communicate God's message to the unreceptive Chattanoogans. Eddie Wiseman, an elder in the community, recollects Spriggs' announcement that, quote, we four elders are going to stand at the street every day at noon. If, after 14 days, Chattanooga doesn't respond to our message, we will warn the people that they are going to be handed over to a powerful delusion. And on the 14th day, they were assaulted by two irate fathers who had hired Ted Patrick to deprogram their adult children. Police arrived and arrested both the fathers and the Island Pond elders. The elders asked for the charges to be dropped, and the case against the fathers was dismissed. The next day, Spriggs and the elders went up to the top of Lookout Mountain, and this is them recanting Eddie Wiseman, quote, where we realized that our Father, in quotes, in capitals rather, is going to judge this place, and a powerful delusion will come upon the city. We prayed that God's judgment would come upon the city for rejecting the gospel, and went back down from that mountain and left for Vermont.
Wow. What a character.
And I think about it like just a very angsty, like nerdy dude. It's like, you guys better listen to me. You guys better listen to me or my magic will cast a spell on you. And then they go up to a mountain, just shake their fist at Chattanooga and leave for Vermont. Oh, God. And in Vermont, the Vine Community Christian Church changed its name to the Northeast Kingdom Community Church. So again, they're going to keep changing their names. At one point, we're just going to call them one thing, but they do keep changing their names.
Do you know why they keep changing their names?
To be discreet. Spriggs is a very
Gotcha.
smart man, and he knows that if he takes Vine Community up to Vermont, somebody might recognize him from Chattanooga.
Gotcha. Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a good chameleon. Like he I don't know, he's just really good at what he does. but he's also kind of a bastard. So I don't mean to say that with like admiration either. So yeah, the first winter in Vermont, as noted by newcomers, was particularly harsh. Their winter was terribly cold, and the new members that recalled it later noted that they lived on mostly beans and Brussels sprouts. They eventually purchased another building to sell whole food groceries, but continued to be isolated. The fact that members typically flocked together wherever they went made them quite conspicuous in this small dairy town. Their shops and restaurants were vandalized, and they were even the victims of drive-by shootings. But things remained more or less quiet for almost 5 years. The next big thing that would happen to them would happen June 22nd, 1984. 90 state troopers and 50 social workers raided 20 homes of the church in Island Pond. 400 people were at the Northeast Kingdom Community Church grounds when the police arrived just before dawn. They had received tips throughout the years of severe child abuse occurring at the church and obtained a warrant to investigate. Having heard of children being beaten with sticks, the raid was conducted, and 112 children were taken into custody to be examined for evidence of child abuse.
You mean that's for educational purposes, maybe? Discipline, perhaps?
We'll get into it here in a minute.
Yeah, I hit the kid
However,
with the ruler.
The children
My
were
mom used to hit me.
yeah, and
I
the
don't know.
children were returned to their returned to their parents the same day, unexamined, and a judge ruled, quote, that their seizure had been unlawful and without credible evidence of abuse, Palmer writes. So June 22nd, every year after that, was celebrated by the church. They would have a big festival to celebrate the time the whores of Babylon tried to destroy God's kingdom, but their faith had been so strong and their methods so right that God blessed them with shelter from the storm. It was to be seen as a spiritually significant event. And this forced the state and the Northeast Kingdom Church to reach compromises like having an employee from the Department of Education come into the classrooms and meet children, rather than like deliver a roster to all the children, and to have like an actual school where kids could learn. And when we return from break, we're going to talk a little bit more about the church and their various businesses and industries. We're also going to talk a little bit more about alleged child abuse and hate mongering and yerba mate and a lot of fun other stuff. So stick around. Cool.
Are you ready for the raw? Are you ready for the real? You ready for the extreme? Coming this summer, we got the Fourth Corner Fingerboard Skateboarding Company coming to you.
The Fourth Corner Fingerboard Skate Company is looking for fingerboarding fiends who are interested in making dope fingerboard videos. You got the bones? You got the blood? You got the ball bearings?
Do you got the knuckles to deal with breaking in your pants?
Now we got the additional Fourth Corner Fingerboard Skateboarding Velcro Rip-Away Pants.
Are you tired of scraping your knuckles, breaking your pants open? Well, guess what? You can reattach them pretty easily. And they come with free knuckle underwear.
Yeah, there's no more breaking pants, only breaking knuckles.
This summer from Fourth Corner, the extreme, the raw, the real Fourth Corner Fingerboard Skateboarding Company.
Fourth Corner Fingerboard Skate Company, we're looking for you.
And blood.
Who doesn't like to discharge their firearms wildly and unpredictably throughout the house? With the risky pistol, it's made easy, simple, and fun. But it's often been a different story when it comes to discharging into the television. And it makes being home just boring and blasé. Well, with our Tricky TV, you can fire as violently and as recklessly as you want to without worrying about ruining the only good thing in the home. That is our bulletproof Tricky TV.
I'm my Tricky TV, and I watching the Avengers, and I had a drive-by, and damn, my TV was okay. My dog was too.
So when I'm sitting at home, and I'm watching Ricky Lake, watching Jerry Springer, I get a little upset. I like to start kind of shooting and banging my TV. Pull up my risky pistol, boom, 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 just like that. And it got real expensive after a while trying to replace that TV. And I said, no more, no more. So I bought the new Risky Tricky TV. It is bulletproof. And no longer do I have a problem with that.
My mama kept shooting at my video games when I was playing them, and I decided to get a Tricky TV, and joke's on her, she shot herself last week. The Tricky TV, bulletproof. You ain't got to worry about nothing no more.
Tricky TV, it'll do the trick. We're not your usual motorcycle club. We don't do this because we're holding up some image of how things used to be. We're not just riding motorcycles, we're innovating it. At the Mini Moto MC, we're dedicated to mini bikes that's getting good. The smaller and harder to ride, the better. If you're also interested in mini motos, come meet us down behind the mall, next to the high-rise, scaffolding some unknown building that is taking forever to get built. No hog is too small. We meet Thursday evenings right after the screaming car rides through downtown.
The Mini Moto MC. Come ride with us. And we're back. Oh, those are good commercials. They were good ones. I personally liked them and want to buy all of them.
Yes, please check out our sponsors and help
go
support this podcast
go ahead
because
and-
that's what's keeping this going. Is you're
You
contributing.
buying our very real products that are advertised on the show. So, do you guys have any thoughts before we get back into the show? Good. So, it was after the Island Pond raid of 1984, the church began to undergo a transformation.
My thought is Island Pond. Every
It's like
time,
all the thoughts came at the same time. Like, I didn't have a second to regroup.
and then you said Island Pond, and every time you say it,
It feels weird to say,
It feels
right?
weird.
Yeah. And we're gonna get into just a little bit of that here in just a minute because there apparently is a real place, like a real pond in Island Pond. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, again, after the raid of 1984, the church kind of transformed. Spriggs and his followers had begun to understand, their words, what they would describe as their Jewish spiritual roots, and that they were a quote nation. Gene Spriggs had revelations through reading the Bible. Everyone would get a Hebrew name at this point. And so like they're all kind of like chatting and talking, and he's like, what if we had some Hebrew names? And they wanted their Hebrew names to be kind of play on words with their original names. And so Spriggs decided to go by the name Yonick or Yonique, something like that, which translates to a young plant, sapling, or sprig. So he just his real name is his Hebrew name is Sprig, which is his real name. And so Yonick's second in command and church elder, Eddie Wiseman, went by the name Hakam, which translates to, can you guys guess? His name's Eddie Wiseman. Doing plays
So
on
he's the
words.
wise man.
He's the wise man. It's literally just his name.
Wow.
Yeah.
How clever.
So clever, yeah. Fucking losers.
I spit a little bit of butter.
You did. It was the perfect timing for that joke. And so 3 years later, by 1987, because I'm bad at numbers, the Northeast Kingdom Community Church, at Spriggs's urging, bought 3 Victorian houses in the area and renovated them. He would put several families in a single house where they would perform morning prayer together and eat breakfast and dinner together. That was part of their routine. They had to get together and dance and sing, and then they would eat breakfast and dinner together. And
Do we know how many people he was managing at this point?
At this point, it's kind of hard to tell. He's got a couple of, I think they've got a couple of common sense cafes, a couple of common sense Whole Foods grocery stores. They've got farms, and they've got, I think at this point, 4 various houses plus a community of about 400 people. So I want to say it's between 400 and 600 people because this
Wow.
is 3 years after the raid. But it's kind of hard to know because all their numbers are really kind of mysterious and kind of obscure. It's hard to find a lot about their actual numbers, and I think that's partially because a lot of people come and go too.
Yeah, I'm just wondering mainly because it's probably really hard to be able to do all of these meetings in these houses if you have that amount of people, right?
Well, if you are God King,
Oh, that's right.
you don't do all the work. You have disciples. You've got you've got other elders, which
Yeah,
he's
peasants.
created. Yeah, you essentially have this hierarchy. So it's him being like, I want all women to wear scarves on their head when they're in church, and he tells that to his elders or the elder council. They tell the various where we're going to get into a little bit here, and it's kind of a top down, like, I am the dictator. I am the almost Jesus of this place.
I feel like his congregation has got to be slightly large at this point, though, because if
the-
you have made enough off of your congregation to invest in, let's say, 4 houses just to start with, that's not a small amount of money.
No.
That's
Well,
like
and-
hundreds of thousands of
But then
dollars
again, this
on
is
top of
back-
businesses, on top of grocery stores,
And this
like
is
you
like
said.
11
So-
years after he more or less kind of started this. And so
Oh, wow.
Spriggs himself, he's making a good amount of money, and he's traveling around a lot, and he's starting all these new places up, all these new businesses. So he's living in luxury while everybody else is kind of not.
But then again, he is providing for all of these people, right? Because it's not like
No. He's providing literally nothing for them.
He's providing housing.
Technically, but it's housing that they earned but from working, and if they were paid a livable wage from the amount of money that he was earning, they could afford like an apartment or something. And so this is his way of like pulling you out of the community at large, and so all your basic needs are met on these farms and at these delis and in these grocery stores and stuff. And so you only operate within your community, really, because your community is the only group that really gets you. And so nobody's being forced into this. They agree to not be paid for any of this stuff. Otherwise, they would, have a good little bit of money.
They lack common sense.
Yeah, and so I'm actually going to get into this a little bit here because, he bought these houses and had these houses where people would, do morning prayers together, and they would eat, and they were forced into being together as like sometimes a 4-family unit. And these cloisters of houses were called clans. Each house at this point, and clans were like 4 to 6 houses. Each house at this point had developed or was developing what is described as cottage industries to support themselves financially. If they weren't working on cottage industries, they were being hired out to the regular community to provide goods and or services, which we'll talk about a little bit more later because they've got a lot of businesses. And so as the church kind of developed and grew, women would study midwifery so that they could birth their children at home, and they even pulled their kids out of public school in lieu of homeschool, which, again, was later recognized by the Vermont Department of Education.
Which is, is very illegal.
Yes, and they would have first day celebrations on the roof / loft / patio of the Common Sense Cafe in downtown Island Pond, or not downtown Island Pond. I forget the town that they were in, but regardless, and it was an event that all members had to attend, and guests were welcome to stay for formal communal meal afterwards. And it was around this time that Spriggs and his followers, Spriggs had the revelation that he and his followers were to restore God's people as they had been before the 12 tribes of Israel were, quote, lost and scattered across the world. The church began to see itself as messianic in nature, and in 1987, the group moved away from being rooted in Jesus and became more rooted in Abraham. They concluded, after much discussion, that they must wash away the influences of corrupt Christian churches. So all 300 plus members, and this is just like one little congregation of them. Actually, this might be all of them at this point, because I think they lost. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm just going to read what I wrote. All 300 members plus walked into the actual pond called Island Pond and baptized themselves, symbolically washing away the sins and influences of mainstream Christianity. They did this to embrace their new religious community, which was called the Messianic Communities, or the 12 Tribes. I'm just going to call it the 12 Tribes from here on out, because that's kind of who they are now. And as their organization grew,
The TT.
the TT.
Double T.
I actually kept reading TT in like my research, and I couldn't fucking figure out what it was for the longest time. I was just like,
Oh, there you have it.
And then when I figured it out, it was one of those head slap moments where you're like,
Oh, of course.
of course. Yeah. And as their organization grew, they were able to take their industries and their child abuse international. So this next part is going to be called How to Raise Children.
I want to know. I'm never having some.
Yeah. And before we discuss their international dealings, let's discuss how their children are raised in this church, because it gives us kind of a look at how industry works in this. And you can find publications of their books on raising children online in PDF form. I'm not going to link them because fuck those books. Their titles are Our Child Training Manual and Our Child Training Manual 2. First thing to know about raising children is that they are absolutely forbidden to play, as you can see in this quote from the UK Independent. Quote, Sven, a 19-year-old former 12 Tribes member who ran away at the age of 14, recalls how he was beaten for imitating an aeroplane. In the hands of one of the sect's, and this is their quotes, educators, he was beaten for days at 2 o'clock in the morning because he kept wetting his bed. And this is them quoting him. They said I had lost control of myself. See, in the 12 tribes, it's important to teach children the correct way of living. And the correct way, and I'm quoting their book, had everything to do with surrender. The basic premise is submission and control. The book says, quote, if we are surrendered, then we are wholehearted. Surrender equals wholeheartedness, equals blamelessness. The person who wrote this described raising kids and the way you're supposed to raise kids to be, quote, pleasing to me. So,
Of course.
yes.
It's all about convenience.
Yeah, they aren't supposed to be, yeah. So in this book, they have a listicle, which is an article, but it's a list. You can often find them on cracked.com and places of the like. And this listicle reads 40 sayings for training children. And again, they say training children, and I want to emphasize that because they don't say raising children.
Of course, yeah, they're like animals.
Yeah. And so a lot of these like things on this 40 sayings, they're fine. They're things like don't treat your child as an inferior being and like give your child the assurance of your love and don't emphasize his weak points. And, you know, they all seem like fine and dandy things, like good things to raise your kids on. Some of them get a little bit more weird, though, like, quote, you cannot train a child you cannot control, and, quote, you bottom beat, not browbeat.
What was that?
You beat their bottom, not beat their
Oh.
brow. And I think that's supposed to be like a metaphor for like you don't make them feel stupid and like an idiot. You just spank them, which isn't better, but it's at least not intellectual abuse. Which I guess you would argue like spanking or beating the fuck out of a child is.
Well, it depends the reasons,
Yeah,
I
and it
guess.
depends on the severity.
The circumstance, I believe, you know, if you're beating your child up for imitating an airplane, then that's a little bit conflicting.
Yeah.
But if you're, you know, trying to beat them because they stole or they did something
Yeah.
actually wrong, then you're just disciplining them.
Yeah.
But it's not okay to like take it too far. It's like, at least personally, my dad would just like smack me in the head. Like, don't say that. That's mean. That's rude.
Sometimes
But it's
you need,
not okay to like grab a belt and just be like, okay, I'm gonna whack you till you are bleeding. You know, like
Yeah.
that's definitely terrible.
That's I'm like spanking and beating. I wouldn't say are the same thing. So whooping some sense into your kid that doesn't know, so he doesn't kill or die. You know,
Yeah.
kill himself or die or herself. You know, where it's like, yo, you just ran across a road of traffic and that almost killed you. Do not do that.
Yeah.
And I will make you know why. So I'm gonna like whip your ass, so you don't ever do that again. Because that's like holy shit.
Yeah.
But just beating your kid because they, you know, dropped a chicken nugget on the carpet, you know, and
Yeah.
stuff. It's
that
like,
chicken nugget cost me 5
Son
cents.
of
You
a
better
bitch.
pick it up.
And
I
so,
just vacuumed.
So our 40 sayings for training children gets a little bit more controversial with lines like, quote, the rod must be used to correct wrong thoughts, wrong words, and wrong deeds. Thoughts are powerful. There is no sin without thinking about it. And things like, quote, train your child to submit willingly to his discipline. Make sure he bends over submissively. Guilt will not be removed unless he submits willingly. So, like, they're not even... I mean, I'm not accusing these people of abusing their kids. I think a bit of this is gonna get there, but this book is just a really weird book in general too. It's like that part of it is like your kid will, and they'll cite a Bible verse. If you don't, and then they cite another Bible verse, and so it's just a really weird book. And I wanted to kind of point that out because it's And so, you know, a big part of raising a child in the 12 tribes is, you know, I've noted is like submission and control. The biblical rod is typically a willow, sometimes fiberglass, sometimes bamboo, and is used to, air quotes, help children to become more wholesome and holy. They believe corporal punishment is right and is the right and responsibility of every parent, and that a parent's job is to spank your child. And this book even goes so far as to like dish out some shit talk on psychologists here, saying, quote, Psychologists are very stupid and are very stupid and worthless persons. Only worthless people think to major in the subject in the first place.
Wait, who said this?
This is the author of the book. I didn't catch his name because I didn't give a fuck about him.
Okay,
but
yeah,
it-
no, I just thought it was Briggs, because considering he was a
he's got a degree in
psychologist.
psychology.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
that's
wait, what?
That's, I was like,
No, I don't understand.
yeah, and when I read this, I was just like, wait. And then I went back through my notes and was like, holy fuck, did he write this? Is he trying to keep people from studying psychology because they'll understand
Because
that
he knows, yeah,
'cause he
exactly,
knows- yeah.
the secret behind the
Yeah,
mastering
yeah.
of mental,
Yeah.
whatever.
And so again, it's just funny because he graduated with that degree in psychology. But
Wow.
yeah, this book, training your children or whatever it's called, even has a line that indicates that they only have sex for procreation, hinting that they don't have sex for like recreation, which is also at odds with some of their teachings. I found in a Vice article describing how women shouldn't, quote, say no to their husband's physical needs.
So rape is allowed, basically.
It gets there, unfortunately. They believe that children are inherently evil unless they are raised right. And raised right means children need to have evil things trained out of them. Things like play and imagination. And I assume that joy that isn't derived from the Lord and Savior. Or labor. Like, if you feel good about work, I'm sure they're like, attaboy. You know, like you did the deed for the day. Because, yeah. They believe babies need to be swaddled in order to learn to be contained and controlled from a young age. When they can walk, the church believes this, quote, "It is during this period that children will attempt to establish their own will as their only ruler. This can be expected. They can be expected to reject and fight against any restriction, especially if they are not restrained as an infant and wrapped in swaddling clothes. As a child, they want freedom from any restriction. Their own desires will govern their actions as they seek to please only themselves. When a child wants approval, he may do what others require of him for a time. When he wants attention, he may intentionally cause trouble to receive it. When he wants to express his own will, he will challenge any other person's will." And I find these lines really interesting because it literally... these lines that are describing like approval and attention are fucking dastardly because they're literally describing a fundamental tenet of behavioral analysis, which is a subsection of psychology.
So like everything you just said sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah. It's
Like, as a kid grows older, he questions authority. Like,
yeah, and like
that's natural.
and
Yeah.
and again, the way it's written is like you can kind of understand that it's like, okay, you got to punish your kid a little bit, but like these people, like before the age of 4, you have to have your imagination beat out of you, and it's like it's horrible. Like I don't think this is like a normal training of children.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
Because that's the thing. There's a difference between discipline and actually just having someone submit to anything that rules, whatever. You
Yeah.
know, like, oh, you have to abide by what I say, period.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. And you have to enjoy farming and nothing else.
Yeah,
like if
like-
you want to, for instance, dance the way that we don't dance, illegal. You can't do that. Don't create
no.
things. God didn't invent you to create things. That's kind of what I'm picking up here.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, when I grew up, when I questioned my mother, and I was like, "Well, why can't I do that?" She said, "Because I said so."
Yeah, I'm your mother.
Yeah.
You should.
And I couldn't
just
question.
not.
That was the end of the story. That was the end. Period. And I was like, "Damn, you pulled that one."
Yeah.
I can't
It's
argue
gonna-
it though.
That-
Like, damn it.
yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why.
I gave
but
birth to you.
you
Abide.
gave the ultimate, like, because I said so. Period. End of story. Like, we're done talking about it. And I was like, "Fuck, Mom." Like,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna listen to you, but
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, and so as I said earlier, the 12 tribes developed and ran a lot of companies, industries, restaurants, and etc. And they did this so much so that they even broke into the mainstream, albeit for the wrong reasons. In March of 2001, Estee Lauder received backlash after it was discovered that they had been using child labor.
Estee Lauder.
Estee Lauder.
Oh my god.
After investigations had been concluded, it was found that the company had, quote, unwittingly, end quote, been using child labor, which I kind of believe. I think that they didn't
You
really
really think
realize it.
so? I mean, don't you research this kind of stuff when you're
Well,
a big company?
well,
You know what I
yeah, I
mean?
think there's
it's
a little
like
bit of that.
saying, "Oh, I didn't know I was using prison labor for my cosmetics or whatever." It's like, come
Estee
on.
Lauder had
let's
been,
be real.
quote, using labor from a personal care products company called Common Sense to work on products from its Origins line, writes Jeanette Walls with MSNBC. Continuing her quote, "Common Sense is run by a controversial organization called 12 Tribes. The group, which has 20 communities across the U.S. as well as branches across the world, has been called a cult and has been accused of dispensing racist and anti-Semitic literature, according to various published sources. Any relationship between the 12 tribes and Estee Lauder is particularly ironic because the Lauder family is a powerful, high-profile supporter of Jewish causes. A spokesperson for 12 Tribes confirmed that it had been working for Estee Lauder, but declined to discuss details or why the relationship was terminated. He vehemently denies charges that the group is anti-Semitic or racist. And this is them quoting him. "We've been accused of many things by people who are mad at us for various reasons," he says, pointing out that he himself is Jewish. He says that published reports calling the group anti-Semitic or racist are from the group's foes who promulgate lies. Promulgate lies, rather. And so,
Promulgate? What does that mean?
They just perpetuate lies.
Okay,
They
okay,
send
okay.
them out, you know. And so he didn't
Sorry.
even talk about the kids, kid labor, at least from what I found.
What was the labor entailing?
We're gonna get into that. It's
Ooh.
Okay,
kids.
that's-
yeah.
Also,
Well,
yeah,
that's
another question.
just because it's kids and you make them work the farm. I wouldn't say it's they're pushing child labor. No, you're part of the family. Work the farm.
Yeah, and like,
Like,
if you live on a
back in
farm,
the day, you
and
had
you're
if you owned a
healthily
farm, you had
homeschooled-
yeah, take
kids.
care of the goats, you know?
Yeah, it's like no, this is
fine.
your chores. You got chores. Do your thing. Like,
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I
No, go
apologize.
ahead.
Another question was, what are the places, internationally speaking, that they have already spread to at this point?
well, at this point in 2021, they're in Japan, they're in Europe, I think they're in France, they just got removed out of Germany, which we'll get to. They're in the
Wow.
Czech Republic. I think they're in England. They've got some in Brazil, some in like a bunch in the United States. And did I mention Kyoto, Japan too?
You said Japan,
Yeah. And so they're kind of widespread and they've got a lot of places, but it's still relatively small. And I think it's because they're trying to keep that low profile thing going on. But like they've got farms and like,
Wouldn't that mean you had to travel to all these places to settle?
oh yeah, Spriggs
This is
is
basically like colonialism
flying
at some
around the
point.
world and having vacations and doing extravagant ass shit throughout this whole thing. It's just him making people work so he can have a good life, basically. That's kind of what I've gathered from the story.
How did he even get to Japan? Does he even know how to speak Japanese? Or
He's got millions of dollars.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, he
it's
runs a
so
grocery. He's ran a
crazy.
grocery store at this point for almost 30. Not just one grocery store or one cafe, but almost 30 years or so. So like,
That's insane.
it's insane, yeah. And so Estee Lauder had been using the products made by literal cult members and children for a few years. Thankfully, a representative from Estee Lauder had gone to the Common Sense site for a, quote, routine, regular check that had turned out a few people of, like, questionable ages. The company then, and I'm quoting them, called in the folks from Common Sense, and we found their answers insufficient, and with record speed, we were out of there. And so they did the right thing. They realized that, like, they were like, hey, how old are you? And the kids were like, and they were like, we need to get the fuck out of here. This is fucking weird. And another article from the Boston Herald published September 11th, 2001 has a short write-up about the 12 tribes that we're going to read in its entirety now. At a community forum to refute allegations from former members about his religious sect practices, and sects being S-E-C-T, in a Herald series on
Thanks for
the
the
12 tribes last week, Eugene Yonek Spriggs boasted of reforming homosexuals and whacking children with wooden rods to keep them in line. What do you think is wrong with America today? People don't discipline their children, Spriggs told horrified parents crowding in the cafeteria of South Middle School.
Hell yeah.
Spriggs,
I mean,
64
people don't train their children.
Spriggs, 64, said 12 tribes has former gays in its community, but they don't like to practice that anymore. They've been redeemed. That's why we're here, to give someone a new life so they won't have to pay for their sins. Clean, scrubbed women in plain, loose dresses offered cookies and tea greeted residents. Some who have frequented 12 Tribes' Common Sense health food and furniture store in downtown Plymouth. Thumping a threadbare Bible and spewing threats of fire and brimstone, the usually reclusive leader of the 12 Tribes went toe-to-toe in Plymouth last night with his controversial cult's doubters. But Plymouth residents turned the cafeteria into a court of public opinion and put 12 Tribes on the stand. One woman said that she went to Common Sense seeking a food donation she could give to an Irish homeless family, but an employee told her the Irish are sinners because they drink, and the family was paying for that sin. The crux of the heated questioning, however, centered on alleged child abuse and 12 Tribes' homeschooling of children. We don't go to college because college just teaches people more and more about less and less until they know nothing at all, said member Yoshia Jones. But David Taylor, who joined 12 Tribes when he was 10 and left when he was 18, said nothing the group taught him was of any use in the outside world. When you leave, you have no school or work history, no place to start at all, he said.
But he said nothing bad about the discipline.
I assume they didn't get to it? I mean, I don't know.
He was just like, yeah, it was pretty useless. I don't really give a shit.
I taught
I
that it's
just,
less
like,
than an
waste-
inch round and you're
I
supposed
just-
to whack them with it real
I
good.
just wasted a bunch of time.
Yeah, and so the 12 tribes have done like an amazing job of keeping things like kind of tightly sealed while still making profit. They've
So
got-
far, I like their discipline argument, though. You haven't like dissold me on this. I'm like, yeah, some kids need to get beat with a stick, little jackasses. You learn how to get more clever about doing some shit.
Like I
Like-
felt that way sometimes,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like somewhere.
what are you gonna
and
do,
there's a
make 'em-
mother that has like 3 kids, and she's like holding one baby, then the other one's like crying, and the other one's just like jumping all around the bank or whatever, and it's just like, homie, if you can discipline one, what makes you think you're gonna discipline 3?
That's all I'm like. I feel like my coolest
Oh,
friends are like growing up. They're like, oh, if I said some shit wrong to my mother, she'd slap me across the face.
Yeah,
and,
dude,
they're like,
I would totally get it.
and they're like my most respectful friends.
Well,
you know?
and
I'm just like, I'm
But
like,
I think that
this
there's
guy
a
knows.
I think that there's a line that is drawn from being like my kid is getting out of hand with a behavior that he's never done before versus these are the behaviors I want him to have. And if he does anything outside of that, I need to punish him. In
It's
order
restrictive.
Yeah, and it's again like you're not allowed to play, you're not allowed to imagine, you're not allowed to do anything that is not allowed. And so there's a difference from, for instance, being a 12-year-old and stealing something from a gas station and getting your fucking ass beat for by your mom or your grandma or something like that. And that's completely different than like, for instance, I don't know, saying I don't want to pick strawberries today and getting your ass beaten. I think there's a pretty
Well, that's
pretty
like
big
saying,
distinction.
oh, you should clean your room. And it's like, I don't want to clean my room.
Yeah,
Wait, what?
but I think also when I mean it. Yeah, it's
You know what I
complicated.
mean?
Bet you're gonna clean
It
your
is
room.
complicated,
and
but at the same
especially-
time, it's a little bit simple. It's about not prohibiting that child to develop,
Yeah.
a mindset where it's like, I can decide when it is that I can say no and when I can say yes.
Yeah.
And it comes with the disciplining, not the abusing. Like, you don't abuse a child
Yeah.
for, okay, my kid said he doesn't want to clean his room. I'm not going to, like, fucking just lap him till he's bleeding. You know what
Well,
I mean?
and-
Like,
and I guess
I'm just
here-
going to be really, it's about being strict, not about
Yeah.
being restrictive, you know?
And I guess here the issue is like not cleaning your room versus like we need to go out and pick carrots for 8 hours a day and that's your job, 9-year-old. And I think that labor laws, especially when you look at the laws themselves, like there's kind of a difference. Like picking carrots is useful, but a kid also needs school. They also need playtime,
Yeah.
and so
But they had homeschooling, though.
alleged homeschooling. Again, that
I
guy.
guess their
That's like-
homeschooling
yeah.
was picking berries all
Yeah,
day.
that guy said
Cause-
when he left, he didn't know how to do anything.
How old? He was 18 when he left, though. Most 18-year-olds don't know fucking shit all
And
about
that's
the
fair.
world. Instead, I didn't learn nothing. No, you wanted to learn how to do some cool shit that you're on. You probably learned quite a bit, but you don't like what you learn. Most kids go to school and they're like, "Fuck school.
Well, and I think in these
I
cases,
hate
That's
school.
true. Yeah,
I
I
didn't
was
learn
really
shit.
terrible
I'm
at
learning the same
school.
thing I learned when I was 5, and I'm in 12th grade now. I didn't learn shit." And it's like, you literally wouldn't know math unless they repeatedly beat it in your head.
well, and
Yeah.
these people
Like-
only knew enough math in order to be able to count and work at the register.
Yeah, it's not like they learned algebra.
No,
or
they're
anything
not.
Like that.
They're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
being well educated because they don't. Like I didn't include it in this, but one person there's like a restricted. There's a set of books that you're allowed to read, and one of these persons caught a couple of these like secret books or illegal books or whatever you want to call it in the tribe, and because her dad had it, and she actually later played kind of an important part in the story that I'll kind of tell you guys a little bit more about when we get to it. But it's this very restrictive cloistered group where you're not allowed to leave without another group. Like it's a cult, You're allowed to leave if you want to quit, but when you leave, there's nothing out there for you.
Of course, yeah.
So
No, it's designed that way, of course, most certainly.
yeah, and So the 12 tribes have done an amazing job keeping things kind of like tightly sealed within their ranks, and they've got all sorts of businesses. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, these cottage industries are a big part of what keeps them sustained. There's probably way more than we know about, but their quaint cottage industries have turned into big time work. 12 tribes have even had enough money to create BOJ Construction, Commonwealth Construction, the Anything Builders, obviously all construction businesses, and then the Common Ground Cafe in Cambridge, the Common Sense Market, a Whole Food store in Plymouth, the Parchment Press, a print shop in Coxsackie, New York. Elad Products makes children clothes. Ozark Rustic Hickory Furniture does what it sounds like. And there's also Simon the Tanner and a series of cobbler shops and shoe stores. They also run Blue Blinds Bakery, the Yellow Deli, and as you know, the Yellow Deli, as we mentioned, and Forest Keepers, a tree cutting company that, according to their website, quote, protects over 20 million acres of U.S. public lands and supports forest guardians around the world.
Is the children's clothes made by children?
You got to think, right?
So I was just thinking like skateboards made by skateboarders. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's coming from people that they're like kids clothes by kids. Like, we got your style.
Clothes.
Like, clothes made by people that know what you want to wear. I'm like, that's clever. I give it to them,
Yeah, and so they own tons of places around the world, including a place called Morningstar Ranch. There's one in Valley Center between LA and San Diego, and one in Moss Beach near San Francisco. Here is partly how the 12 tribes describe their Morningstar Ranch between LA and San Diego. It's a little long, so. The entrance of the Morningstar Ranch is lined with palm trees, leading you through a persimmon orchard where the cows graze, past the goats and chickens, to our red barn-shaped houses where you will find us busily cleaning, cooking, sewing, teaching our children, and watching the little ones, and washing dishes. I like how washing dishes is at the end.
All right.
The road continues up the steep hill into the avocado grove, where you will find the men working underneath trees or in the packing house, sorting fruit for the market. You will find people from many different backgrounds and nationalities here sharing our home, all serving the same God with the same faith in lasting friendships. In this new life, the cultural barriers are being broken down, as the long-established cultures of the earth are being left behind for the self-gratification of Western culture. A brand new culture is emerging. Our common faith in the God of Abraham has brought us together to accomplish his work of restoration. His restoration of all things begins with this restoration of human relationships. What relationships are more important than those between men and women, parents and children? Eunice, your
Listen,
face.
is supposed to be like the one with God.
We see the breakdown of these fundamental relationships as the root of what's causing societies of the earth to break and crumble. We are beginning to understand how selfishness is the cause of these breakdowns. So we are learning that the key to living with one another is in harmony is putting our focus on the needs of others over our own needs. When we all live in a way that creates community. And that's the entire sentence. When we all live in a way that creates community.
Gay.
Yeah. So here on the Morningstar Ranch, our children are growing up with us, giving their strength to help us build a life where people are cared for and can live in peace, learning the ways of our Creator. Sound idyllic? Awkward question mark? Awkward question mark is my dissertation there. And it's true that many have had the concept of a wonderful community life where no one is left out and everyone does his share, but oh, how hard to realize the dream. We are not writing about visions and concepts, but about the reality of our daily life, the life we've been living for decades. You could say that we have the conceptual reality, there, air quotes, of what many have dreamed of. While our life is a joy to us, it is not as if our problems are swept away by a magic wand. It is sometimes painful and difficult, and it takes courage to be a human being, especially one who cares. We are learning to forbear, forgive, and to be real. And after all these years, we're not tired or worn out, but we're increasing. I don't know what increasing. Okay. It's a miracle that we can live together. We need our master, Yeshua, the one called Jesus Christ in most English Bibles, to do it, as his love is what makes it possible. We would love to share our life with you. You can drop by on Friday nights when we end our work week by bringing in the Sabbath with a festive meal, Israeli folk dancing, and singing with our whole hearts to the capital One who made us. Or come as a willing worker, a woofer.
Isn't that from the woofing program?
Oh, yeah.
Are you serious? You're killing me.
The end of the quote says, "The gates of Morningstar Ranch are always open. The hardworking farmers there would love to share their insights into this abundant life we have found. Please come and see us. Please call us if you need more complete directions."
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. My mind, I don't think I can handle this.
One world, one love, Rasta.
One world, one love. And for the record, when I heard them doing woof, I was like, did they invent that shit? I don't think they did. But it's really hard. It's so hard to find everything about them.
It brings it to question, of course.
I think they just have woof farms, but I don't know enough to say one way or the other.
I don't think it was made by them. I mean, I understand why.
They probably just started the idea of it, and then some hippies were like, "Yeah, we got a commune down here.
Yeah.
If you work
We'll
for
put you
us,
up if
I'll
you
give
work
food.
Yeah.
Well, it's just conflicting for me mainly
Equal
because
trade, bro."
I know a person in Deer Lake Springs that actually has a woofing program
there's-
available for
there's woofers
It's
everyone.
probably not a
Yeah.
12 tribes woof
So-
program, though.
I hope it's not. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
I looked into it. Honestly, I was like, I know about Deer Lake Springs.
Yes,
That's
we
unlike there was
know.
plenty of woofers that came through here and stuff, and they're like, as long as I can be put up, I'll put on work on your weed farm and stuff like that, and
and
cool,
so-
and that's why I'm like, and that's all cool, right?
So I know that was a long
Right?
quote.
Alright, it's okay.
It's I mean, but it's a weed farm, so it's cool if you're working on a weed farm and we
Yeah.
put you up and this and that. But when it's
I wonder if the 12
religious,
tribes, they definitely have weed farms. I'm sure they do.
I mean,
Like, I'm sure they've got to.
listen, if this guy has made a lot,
Maybe
a lot of
not.
money, he's
I don't know.
probably very clever and he knows how to do investments.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I
he
think you're
invested
right.
in real
Yeah, I
estate.
think you're right.
So he
might
obviously
be.
He
also-
probably owns a farm that doesn't have his
Of
troops there.
course,
He
Right?
might
no,
be working
especially
up-
if he's been traveling and changing the names of everything. Like he probably has a weed farm that has no relation to religion whatsoever. It might just be medicinal or some
Well,
kind of
there's-
thing like that, right?
there's plenty of religious organizations that have the same ideology that you're explaining here and stuff like that. And this is where I kind of brought up earlier the nonprofit thing of religious organizations.
Yep.
It's just like hospitals and stuff. When you have a regional hospital or to that degree, they are a nonprofit organization. But let's use the hospital example. People are always going to get hurt. They have to pay a fee. They have to keep moving in on it. So, but because they're a nonprofit organization, if a lot of people get hurt in the year and they end up with let's say a profit, they paid all their employees, their doctors, their bills, all this other stuff, and there's money left over. That money has to get invested back into the business. Otherwise, you're now making profit and stuff. So what a hospital will do is now buy another building. And now that's the breast cancer treatment facility.
And that's what
And they
makes-
hire more people, but then what happens? They keep making money. So now they buy another building, and now that's the whatever treatment
And
place.
in the case of
And then
hospitals, I think that's a good thing.
No,
in the case of a literal business that you're running for profit for yourself under the guise of having a church, using free labor, communal homes, which are
Well, I
arguably
mean, I
is
don't think
okay.
these people were even able to reach actual medicine, right?
Yeah,
Like they were not allowed to go to a hospital if they
Yeah.
were in danger.
Yeah.
It's
I guess
well,
what
that's
I'm-
the point of like them.
I guess you believe in God too much. God will fucking
So I
send
guess
a miracle.
what I'm getting at with the church example, with the medical example is, or relating that to churches is, churches are the same exact thing. So you have a church, that organization makes more profit, if you will, than they're allowed to, because churches are religious and they're nonprofit. Well, that money has to get put back into their system to consider it not a profit. So what happens is then they build a this, they build a that. Well, then they have to hire people, and almost a way of, let's say, this child labor or not paying people a wage is a backdoor way of, if you have 5 employees that you have to pay at this new place that you just bought and stuff, well, now you're bringing in you're bringing in money that has to get paid, but if you can deduct it down, now there is
they're
no employee
interns.
wages, which means you don't have to do this and that, and So it's a way to work around this idea of business to stay within your realms.
Yeah,
And
and I don't know that he ever got a 501c3, so I don't know he was ever a nonprofit.
I was just gonna go
but-
to that.
Yeah, but I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head here. But when we get back, we're gonna talk a little bit more about his not necessarily Spriggs, but we're gonna talk about the organization and how they expanded. Because at this point, Spriggs isn't really that involved in things because he's making a shitload of money and he's got
course.
fucking businesses to start. So when we come back, we're gonna talk about how they are kind of trying to take over the health food thing and how they really are trying to get on those hiking trails that are so popular. We'll be back. Bye.
this week's episode was sponsored in part by Mothers Against Hip Hop for Babies.
And the Waterfowl Association. Fuck you. Get out of my pond.
And go fuck yourself.
And by headphones for hippopotamuses.
And by Mountain Dew Baja Blast in the can. You wanted to get it at Taco Bell? Now you can get it everywhere.
And yeah, bye.
And by the Left-Handed Workers Union.
Also, the Right-Handers Workers Union. Fuck the lefties.
And by common sense religiously. Yeah.
And by viewers like you.
Y'all ever come home after a hard week's work, got your Friday night paycheck, listening to country music, feeling good about being American, but you know you got to take the old lady out to Olive Garden for a nice dinner, and you're thinking, maybe I stink like shit, and I'd much rather smell like freedom?
Introducing the American deodorant, where you can smell like a combination of freedom and a bald eagle.
Well, you wait right here just 1 second. Pass that thing over here. Let me get a whiff. Well, I'm getting notes of all sorts of baby oil and gunpowder and tiger titties.
Woo! Bang 'em up, shoot 'em up. I now smell like freedom.
Do you like smelling like the Constitution? You like smelling like cattle dung? Illicitly earned money or maybe slush funds? Well, welcome to America, baby.
No, I ain't handing this sample back. It smells so damn good, I ain't giving it to you. This is gonna be mine.
You'll smell so damn good, she'll be like, please tax my ass.
Pop the top, stick it on, rub it on, call it good.
You can take a shot of it. You can put it in your armpits. You can do whatever the hell you want to. Guess what? Because you're American.
You clean your guns with it. You polish your truck with it. It's Freedom Pits for everyone. Freedom Pits deodorant from Freedom Core, America Freedom, best
American
thing,
Freedom
America
Core
fucking free.
of America.
Smell like America today with America deodorant. New from Better Waters. Better Waters is wetter water, toilet paper wetter.
Before I found toilet paper wetter, it was like the Grand Canyon down there in July.
It's like a bidet, but instead of all the gayness from the French, you just have toilet paper.
Are you tired of having dry, chapped buttocks? Well, you got to wet your paper. It's the only way. Makes it soft, extra pliable. And if you're real chapped, you can pack a little up there and it'll stay because of the mushy consistency.
If you don't want your hind end feeling like the Sahara Desert, try out Better Waters' wetter water, toilet paper wetter.
We need. And we're back. And during our break, our guest Eunice informed us about some interesting stuff that I did not stumble upon. Do you want to go over that a little bit and help us understand what's going on here?
So basically, what I understood from what I read is that basically this person is operating as an actual for-profit type of thing. So basically, they are filed as a, they have a 401D, which is,
Is it a
a
501?
501. What did I say?
FOVO.
You said
You said 401.
501. I apologize.
Yeah.
501D, which is a for-profit organization with a religious purpose and a common treasury. So they are handling their money properly. Obviously, this is why they can actually buy all these houses and provide for these families and continue their spread. Because this means the community pays property taxes, but the 501D structure tends to result in no income tax liability, which means they pay taxes if they want to. If they don't, I don't know if that's actually like, something they could be hunted by
think
the
there's-
government.
Yeah, I think there's like a corporate like umbrella that they exist under, and since they don't pay their employees, they got plenty of money to like spend on. Well, they're not employees, rather. They're members of the community.
They're interns.
And yeah, they're basically interns.
They're interns
Yeah,
or slash slaves,
and
you know?
that's kind of like you were saying during break, like he's basically the CEO.
Yes.
And all the profits are just kind of like dribbling upwards, and nobody else is like making anything. And we're gonna. This is the part of the episode that's gonna get the worst, because we're gonna talk a little bit about that here in just a moment. But getting back to, kind of how they.
Operate.
Yeah, kind of how they operate, and they also like that they've got this, these farms, and they're kind of a woofer. So they also run this webpage called Hikers Hostel, where they offer lodging for hikers. They've set up a bunch around the Appalachian Trail, including Northern Virginia, West Virginia. There's Rutland, Vermont, where they're like where they live now, and Lancaster, New Hampshire. They bill themselves as a place to stay and offer the friendliest services one can imagine. Their website says this, quote, "Please stop in for some time of refreshment. Call ahead and we can pick you up from the trailhead. We don't expect payment, but donations and contributions of time, to help improve the hostel is requested." And so to the outsiders, they're always asking for this help, and they're really friendly. They're kind of this, we talked about in our previous like broad overview of cults, how welcoming and friendly they feel, and how it's like they seem that they don't really want anything. They just want like some help, and like I'm willing to help if it's for the greater good, and it's just a corporation.
What good is that?
Yeah, and so they've got one at the Appalachian Trail. They've got one. They've got another little part on their website about the Pacific Crest Trail, but that lodging trail is, and I quote, "in a more primitive infant state. We are just getting going with a hostel for PCT hikers. Bring your skills with work trade. We also have a nearby avocado ranch in northern San Diego County if you need help to rest up before continuing."
I love avocados. I'm about it.
I'm about it too.
Let's go in there.
Let's go. Let's
Let's
dip
get it.
out. Yeah. And under the tab on their website, Other Trails is just a photo of a mountain range with a trail on it. That's it. Apparently, they're working on the Camino de Santiago in Spain, which is another like notorious, or not notorious, but famous trail. I don't know much about it. And they kind of build that, and they're like, "Oh, you got all click the other tab to find out where the trails are." And again,
So-
it's just a mountain range with like a
It
You
sounds
just
like
walk into your death.
yeah.
it sounds like they have some woofing farms along some of these major trails, where it's
Yeah.
like, you're hiking the Appalachian or the Pacific Crest, and you need a place to stay, but you don't really have much to.
And
To,
maybe
as far as like money
Offer.
goes, like you can't just book the motel down the street.
Yeah.
You need a place to stay. You're hiking down the trail. We can help you out with the place to stay, but you're going to have to help us.
Well, and again,
know,
it's
so it's
requested.
like
They
a-
don't demand money or compensation from work. They just kind of request it, which again is a part of their charm and appeal. And I actually find that very endearing. But that's the thing that makes
But they might not have any vacancy
It's
if
just
That's
you're
what makes it
not.
elusive to
dangerous.
freedom, basically. Like, it's
Yeah.
your own choice.
Yeah, they just
Although-
might not have any vacancy if you're not willing to help out a little bit.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't even. It's hard to say because I think that they would have no vacancy if they didn't have any vacancy. But if you were like, "I'm not going to contribute," they'd be like, "Oh, well, come in anyway. You have to buy your food or whatever." But the aspect that they really focus on is being friendly and non-pressuring, so that if you are a lost wanderer like they did during the 70s, and you're just looking for a place to be, that if you find a place to be, which just so happens to be their place, you feel comfortable and kind
Well,
of
that's
willing
how
to
cults
join.
work anyway. It's a sense of belonging,
Yeah,
Like right now,
exactly.
I don't know
We can
anyone,
offer
so I'm
you-
just gonna kick it here with these people. They seem kind of nice.
We can offer you a room for a couple days, no questions asked. But if
Mm-hmm.
you need a week or longer, we could use a little help as well for helping
Well,
you
and I'm
out.
sure when it
And
comes to like a
that's
week
where it
long
becomes.
I mean,
That's
it's
sure.
giving and giving. I
It's like,
guess.
yeah, it's kind of that, like, like, come on, we're willing to give you a couple days rest. No big deal, whatever. If you got, I'm not even gonna pressure you on like you got to leave us money. That'd be cool. Or you gotta dig some dirt or whatever. But if you're like, yo, I could use a couple weeks or a week or whatever it is, it's like, well, we could use you to wash the dishes, and we could like use a little help in the farm, and then you can have a bed. Cool. Like, and I don't really see anything wrong with that. So the
It
whipping.
seems like trading.
It
it's
seems like
almost,
trading.
It's the classic like
With a
kind of
cult.
communal.
Trading with
it's-
a cult. Sounds fun.
But that's
So-
why I'm like a lot of hippies kind of do the same thing in that communal living. Where
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, yo, I got a farm here and this and that, and you can totally come out and like
that's what
stay
they
here
build
and do all this
themselves
stuff,
as.
but you need to help out.
Yeah.
And stuff.
So on the hiking aficionado website called thetrek.co, which is thetrek.colorado, thetrek.co is an article published by Clay Bonnyman Evans entitled "The 12 Tribes / Yellow Delhi, Hiker Haven, Creepy Cult, or Both."
All
In
of
that,
the above.
I really like that title. I think that's a solid
They
title.
probably got a really
They have
cool.
really good. They must have a marketing person working for them too.
Yeah, that's. I'm going to
probably-
get to that in a little bit. But in that article, Clay has come across some of the tribes, like kind of members, people who have stayed, and he's also come across some of the tribes' and Spriggs' most controversial teachings, like the following: women should be subservient to men. Their primary purpose is childbearing and rearing. Another one.
Patriarchy, damn it.
People of different races should not marry. Quote, our solution is to the race problem. Anytime you hear the blank problem, you're in for a problem. Our goal,
I mean, it says it problem.
yeah, our solution to the race problem is not to intermarry everybody, one member told a reporter in 2011. Our goal is to not create one gray human being. And another thing he found, and he published in this article, slavery is not just acceptable, but biblically sanctioned. And in 1988 teaching, Spriggs wrote that, quote, Paul and Yahshua, the group's name for Jesus, which he always emphasizes. Oh, yeah. They didn't rebuke anyone who had slaves, so it is all right by principle to have slaves. Slavery is the only way for some people to be useful in society. And another quote that he cites in this article, if the American slaves were mistreated, it was the fault of the slave.
Wow, that's like saying, what was she wearing? She asked for it.
Yeah, and the final one from his article is corporal punishment is essential to raising children. Quote, the rod expiates, takes away the guilt from a child's heart, Spriggs wrote in 1990. So we can see how, like, it was a little light and fluffy beforehand, but it's not going to be light and fluffy for the rest of the... This is the part of the episode that I warned people about up top, because...
Here we go.
Yeah. And Spriggs hated all sorts of things you would expect from a fundamentalist Christian cult leader. He taught his followers to abuse children in order to keep them pure, but the cult, they really, really want you to know that, guys, they are not racist. A Vice article from 2018 discusses this a little bit.
Wow, that's recent.
Yeah. Quote, their attitude towards race is far more extreme than they make it out to be. One tip-off is that "Are you racist?" is included in the frequently asked questions section of their website.
Would you even answer to this? Like a trick question.
Well, and this is my editorial. This has since been removed. They did a lot of like PR, as you were saying, Eunice, and like wiping IT guys. Like this has since been removed, but they have a hyperlink in their article that led to the 12 tribes. So in 2008, all this shit was like you could rely on this. So I'm going to continue the article. The reality is that blacks function in responsible positions in every aspect of our communities, reads the answer. So this is the answer to, are you racist? There are black elders, black apostles, black heads of households, black teachers, as well as whites. Race is not, nor has it ever been, an issue in the 12 tribes. And this is continuing the Vice article, which is slightly at odds with other sections of the website, like the part where they explain that they are pro-segregation because multiculturalism increases murder, crime, and prejudice. Or the bit where they say that politicians who, and this is them quoting the 12 tribes, rally different races to be one are the forerunners of the Antichrist. They also believe that feminism inevitably causes adultery and homosexuality, and women should love their husbands even if they're being physically abused by them. They also absolutely hated gay people. In that Vice article, they published another link that takes you again to that 12 Tribes website. The link,
Why do I not find that surprising?
yeah, the link no longer
It's
exists.
like, come on.
But quoting Vice here, and this is them quoting this is Vice, comparing gay people to dogs, writing that dog is the only name that the righteousness of God can call such people, for they have degraded themselves to the lowest of all creatures, dogs. Which seems a little unnecessarily mean to both gay people and dogs. Yeah, that's the end of the Vice quote. But yeah, that's
So
what he thinks about the gay people. The gays, if you will. So
So
I'm sure
they-
you would have
It's
called
not
them
convenient
that.
for them to have gay people because then procreation wouldn't be a thing.
Well, let's-
considering they're Christians to
Yeah,
begin with.
that's what I was gonna say. So they're all. It's very obvious they're about procreation in that, and obviously gays don't help out procreation.
They do
So
not.
that's just out. That's just out, and it is something that is in the Bible. And if they're a religious thing and they're trying to follow the Bible, homosexuality is not a thing and stuff. So, but the second thing though, I
a
was
convenient thing, that is. It's not
yeah,
convenient.
well,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
like when it comes to religion, like it's like, yo, hey, homosexuality is not cool and stuff. So I get that they're following that. That seems pretty typical religious stuff where they're like, yeah, we're religious, we like men and women. That's where it goes.
That's the rule of God.
Yeah,
Now
and-
with racism, it sounds like from what you were just saying that they're not being racist. They don't mind blacks being the head of this and the leader of that and the this and that. No, blacks and whites, if you for this example, aren't supposed to procreate. So
That's what
they're
it seems
into
like,
seg-
yeah.
Mixing race is not
Yeah.
allowed.
they're into
Well,
segregation.
we don't want to make any gray
So
people.
they don't
Why
mind.
not?
That's I don't know. That's like gray
So
people
they
sound tight.
so they
Yeah.
have
They aliens.
What I'm getting at is they have no problem with races. They have problem with races commingling or like interbreeding, if you will, and stuff like that. They don't want some mixed race relationship happening.
Yeah.
You can be black, you can be Asian, you can be white, you can and you're more than welcome to come here, but if you're black, don't date the white girl.
Yeah.
Could
It-
it be
you know, like-
okay? So this person obviously has a degree in psychology.
Yeah, yeah.
Would that mean maybe they wouldn't let different races mix because of culture?
I
In terms
I
of
think that
like,
because I think it was
you
he
know,
was
like
born
you
in
have white and
1937.
white, they have the same culture, and then there's the black culture. You know, you don't want to mix black and white because of culture purposes
So
more than it
that's-
is
you know,
about race.
That's what I was kind of getting at. Is it seems like he doesn't actually have a problem with race, what your race is. He's kind of trying to state that he doesn't. He wants to preserve the culture of the race, and if you're black, you need to mix with black people and preserve your black culture.
It's
if
about
that makes sense.
control.
Well, and so as
But
this, as
if
this
you
whole
start
church is
mixing it
getting
up,
born,
you bleed out what.
And
Yeah,
as this
it's
whole
about
church
control
is
of
getting
knowledge.
born, like Jerry Falwell, notorious like right wing crazy Christian identity, like white power dude, like neo-Nazi, the creator of the neo-Nazi party. Him and George Lincoln Rockwell have been talking all about like how the gays and the Jews and all these people were trying to ruin things, and so part of this Christian culture at the time is I don't know if these people are getting involved in that, but I know all the people that are joining their churches, like the intermingling of church denominations, is a big thing at this time, and it's kind of trying to bring people together towards being anti-black, anti-gay, because this church got started in the 70s, and so
Yep.
so all of this is about essentially control, but part of like utilizing that control is by saying, this arbitrary rule is and this arbitrary rule isn't. For instance, you can only eat from the Yellow Deli farms, you cannot eat anywhere else. And it's the same way with like you cannot, for instance, if you are a black person working on a farms, you can work in the farm, you can sleep with other black people in accordance to their marriage laws. I don't really know how that worked, but don't fuck around with the white people. And because I think to him it was also more important for him to have viable workers than it was about race. So if he could keep you in the lower echelons to keep earning him money, good. Just don't fuck around.
Well, and that's
So-
I guess where I was getting at is I feel like he doesn't actually have I wouldn't say necessarily he's racist because it doesn't sound like he has a problem with
He didn't
races.
start off like that.
Well, what I'm getting at is like I guess it doesn't sound like from what you said that he has a problem with a specific race. He's not like fuck the blacks, fuck the Jews.
No, I think
Like,
you're right. I think he's just about the
He's
whites.
like, but don't
Yeah.
cross blend them and
Well-
stuff
Of
like
course,
that.
yeah, and that's why I think it has to do with culture, because obviously he's trying to maintain power and control.
Yeah, yeah.
And he wouldn't want people, like, okay, you have the black culture, you have the white culture, and then you mix them together and they start talking, and it's like, okay, this isn't right. He wouldn't want to have people
No.
determining that this
No.
is wrong. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
we're not,
Yeah.
he doesn't want people to be available to the mentality of
he doesn't want them to
something
think.
being wrong
Yeah.
within this whole aspect of what
Yeah.
he's doing.
And
you know?
that's also why like he created a like a sailboat to travel around and recruit people for his Yellow Deli and 12 Tribes thing. He also created Grateful Dead tour bus. I'm not really going to talk about that too much, but what I do want to talk about is Brazil,
Ooh.
because you guys, the 12 Tribes, they own and operate a business called the Mate Factor, which sells, quote, fresh organic yerba mate with the best flavor and the richest nutrition possible. On their website, they want you to know, quote, we pay our Brazilian partner more than a fair rate for our mate, as well as work together closely to help develop local projects to enhance and support those we work with. And guys, I think that they definitely don't use free labor from members from their community. But I want you guys to kind of keep that in mind.
What's that called in the
Get
hippie
into our
thing?
next story.
Self-sustain. No.
Yeah, self-sustainable.
Like all those things they put on the hippie
Tags
yerba
and
mate.
stuff.
Yeah, it's GMOs, certified
gluten-free.
sustainable. Blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah. Like
Yeah. And so again, they pay
Fair
their
trade.
They pay their
Non-GMO.
Brazilian partner fairly, but I would also wager they definitely don't use free labor from their community. But let's go ahead and come back to that after we talk about Germany
Ooh.
in 2013. In 2013, Wolfram König, I'm gonna fuck that up because it's
What
very
was that?
German.
Sorry, repeat that.
Wolfram König.
Again? What was that?
Wolfram König.
I'm just kidding.
Whatever. He published some amazing work he did by infiltrating the 12 tribes. A journalist with the RTL broadcasting company from Germany, he was able to enter the 12 tribes religious order in Bavaria, Germany, and set up hidden cameras throughout.
hey, can I come to church? Yeah, you're more than welcome.
He was investigating reports of child abuse and exploitation in the commune, and this commune was about 100 people at the time, and he caught some horrifying footage. He infiltrated the group by posing as a lost soul seeking guidance. Once inside, he managed to capture footage on hidden cameras of things like a mid-aged woman holding what appeared to be a baby, taking a child, approximately 4 years old, down into a cellar. The woman then grabs some sort of cane, rod, something like that, and tells the child, head down. It's a bit difficult to make out from watching the video, but you can distinctly hear the willow cane land, and the child begin to cry. In another clip, another child is brought down. The woman, perhaps a different woman, hard to say, demands this child say, Ich bin müde, or I am tired, which the child refuses. She commands her down, and you can see the little child bend over at the waist and put her hands on the ground. The woman then hits the child a couple times, demands a statement again, which is refused. This goes on a few times again, and the child eventually says, I am tired. She hits this child a total of 10 times throughout the clip, emotionally unresponsive to the pain that she's causing. A hidden camera catches the spankings in a cellar, another hidden camera captures similar footage on a school bus, and yet another captures footage from the school's boiler room, where they would take children from school. Within 2 days, Wolfram Kanyuk had captured 84 lashes by 6 different adults. The people who have been hitting these children are almost always not the parents. After he left the community, he pored over his footage and found the heartbreaking material I've described. He steeled himself and, after watching this footage, immediately went to the authorities. He was quoted as saying, quote, seeing the systematic beatings made me want to weep. It made me think of my own 2 children. Two Bavarian 12 tribes communities were raided shortly after. 40 children were taken and placed into foster homes due to suspicions they were being abused. Kanyuk's work exposed the Bavarian 12 tribes community to the world and showed their relationship towards children as being harmful. In the years since, the 12 tribes of Bavaria have moved to the Czech Republic, west of Prague, probably due to exactly what they've been doing for years. As of 2018, the German government has returned several children, with the 12 tribes website sometimes celebrating children that have been, quote, set free from captivity. It is inconclusive how many children are still under state custody. In 2018, in Cambridge, New York, Inside Edition did an expose on the 12 tribes and their working conditions. A hidden camera was used to collect footage of underage children at a cosmetics packing factory in Cambridge.
Estee Lauder?
We'll get to this. The 12 tribe runs the Common Sense Farm in the same town. From the Inside Edition's investigations, we've learned that they use child labor on production lines for cosmetic products such as Acure and Savannah Bee. They manufactured and packaged products using forced labor. Sarah Williams, a former member of the 12 tribes, infiltrated the group with Inside Edition's help. So she's a former member. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's so nice to see you again." Didn't suspect a fucking thing. She's got a little hidden camera on her. And then, excuse me, in that video, you can see children laboring at an assembly line. William asked several children how old they were, ranging from 9 to 11. At one point, she asks a girl her age, and she looks at her dad, who seems to know kids aren't supposed to share their age with outsiders. Father responds by saying, "It's all right. She's not Secret Service. She's not child labor." Girl responds that she's 10 years old. And I would like to quote from a Times United article I stumbled upon. Quote, "Acura, which is based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, says it is no longer contracting with Greener Formulas, a corporate entity tied to Common Sense Farms that does contract work for companies like Acura. Greener Formula has 2 Cambridge facilities, according to Quality Assurance International, or QIA, which is an organic certifying agency for the USDA.
Wow.
And so I've got no evidence to prove it, but getting back to that yerba mate thing, it's probably some free child labor.
That's why that hippie shit with all the labels on it I'm not about. They're like, oh, sustainable, fair trade, this and that. No, that's some fucking bullshit
This
made by
happens in
kids so your
every
hippie ass shit can
industry.
be all communal and cool and we're all happy.
No, this happens in every industry. I mean, I saw this documentary about the fishing industry, and literally this guy found out that, oh,
Are you talking about
dolphins save,
Seaspiracy?
dolphins save,
Yeah, yeah.
the dolphins save label on all of these cans that you could get if you have enough money,
Yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't matter if you caught a dolphin. Nobody is there to actually say that you didn't catch a dolphin. There's no assuring that it's actually dolphin safe.
There's
It's like-
no overseer.
It's
of the
about
thing.
money.
It's
It's
like
not
paying
about
to get
safety.
in the fast track line at the TSA when you go to the airport. If you pay a couple extra bucks, you skip all the security bullshit and you just go right to the front.
Exactly. It's so crazy. I mean, yeah, I guess cash rules everything around me,
Cash
like
does.
you have this person making all this money of all of this labor that he's actually getting for free because
For
he
free,
managed
baby.
to manipulate them into doing so.
It's so
and
bad.
it's like, oh my God. Like,
It's so
of
hard.
course you're getting away with this. Jesus
I
Christ.
don't know. But I do have good news because we are reaching the end of the podcast. So, Elbert Eugene Spriggs lived an extravagant lifestyle off the backs of his members for nearly 50 years and a little bit more. He took their collective wages and let them live in squalor, especially by comparison. He was a horrible, evil, angry person, and the world was made a slightly better place on January 11th, 2021. From an obituary, thrice validated for accuracy, quote, "According to multiple ex-members of the 12 tribes who still have friends and family within the community, Elbert Eugene Spriggs, known as Yonek by members of the community, died on January 11th, 2021
Hey,
at 8:35 p.m. They suspect his death was COVID-19 related."
I guess God had no
As-
mercy on him.
As was everything in January.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and
But then this is still a thing though, right? I believe
still a
people
thing.
that followed him still try
Oh,
to continue this
The grocery
thing.
stores, the coffee shops, the churches, they're not shut down just because the old man died.
Of
Yeah.
course, because you have people to
Yeah.
run it.
There's a whole thing going on, and they ain't going to stop because they're kind of making.
Wait, is
or
his
not.
wife still alive?
I don't know. They're again shrouded in secrecy, and I have a little note here because I wanted to end tonight by saying like every hyperlink that I found on all these articles went back to the 12 Tribes website and just didn't like they had deleted the website entirely. And so again, it appears that they've got like a PR or IT guy that's trying to clean things up. And it wouldn't surprise me to know that maybe they were buying ad placement from Google because again, it's hard to find stuff. And it appears that they've done all of this in at least the last 3 years. And so from their racist past, their controversial preachings, their spankings, like all of these links have been removed from the actual 12 Tribes website. But they still have, depending upon your source, between 2,000 and 4,000 members worldwide.
Oh, that ain't much.
Wow.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess 4,000 if you're across the
Are you
world.
joking
It's
me?
not that many people, but it's still
It's
people
a-
enough to.
It's a lot of people that
to-
you're duping, though.
Bethel.
Yeah, for sure.
Bethel and Reading has like 10,000 members in just Reading.
I mean, dude,
Like
it's like twice of
easy.
Hayfork.
That's
you know
all,
what
yeah.
I mean?
That's all. Like yeah, okay, whatever. So a couple thousand people or across the world have some thinking like that's. I mean, some people think pigs will fly and the Earth is flat and shit like that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like whatever. A couple thousand people in the world think that this is all right and that's their way of style. Like they're obviously not affecting the majority of people in the world.
Yeah,
Well,
I
remember
guess that
from
makes
like
big
sense.
18,
stand.
rather
Still.
1987, they had 300 people. Now they've got 4,000 people at the most. Like that's enormous, and it's not
a
good
lot,
either.
It's
you
still
know,
a lot of people.
and they're still recruiting. They're still out there like with their Grateful Dead bus. They're still out there with their yellow delis. They're at these fucking trails. They're like these people are out there actively recruiting you very gently, and it's
No, I mean,
it's an
I do
interesting
have
story.
a friend who did tell me, hey, I've actually had people in buses trying to get me into the
Yeah.
bus. And thanks to a friend, they were like, get the fuck out of there. You do not want to go into that.
Yep.
And she was trying to be recruited like 3 times approximately.
Yep.
I don't even know.
It's,
But it's just crazy to think about, like it could be right next to us.
Cool story.
Do you imagine they open a yellow deli up here in
Oh,
Hayfork?
I am not going to say what I would do if I'm not going to say it on mic if that happened because
I feel like I'm the start of a cult leader.
Ha ha ha, let's do
I
it.
own a bus. I'm trying to convince people to get in it. I believe in spanking, and we have about 400 followers.
That sounds like a BDSM kind of thing.
that's fair. Yeah. So, how do you guys feel after this? We're getting to the end.
It's insane to think how someone can have so much control over so many people.
Yeah.
And I guess it makes sense considering he was, someone who, as we said before, has a degree in psychology, but then again, it's also a power hungry type of person.
Yeah, very much so.
And as I said earlier, too, it's kind of like a mockery to what he had learned from when he was younger.
Yeah. And I think that
he
you
had
can clearly
his-
see him manipulating the scripture.
Of
for
course, yeah,
himself.
he has his open interpretation for the Bible, which is open for everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody has, even pastors or anybody who has a church, they're trying to explain the Bible to people, but like you get to, you read a book and you say, this is my symbolism to it.
Versus like you read a book and now you're like, I'm fucking Jesus, dog.
Yeah,
Until Jesus comes
yeah,
back, I'm
it's
fucking
a-
Jesus.
Yeah, it's like you have ego involved, and
Yeah.
that's usually what makes this type of people do all of these things. It's just crazy. It's
Yep.
it's just
I guess the way
unbearable. I don't know.
I kind of look at it a little bit is like the degree in psychology, but marketing.
That too.
It really
yes.
just sounds more like a marketing thing,
great
and this is where
or
I kind
was.
of balance the.
Well, the marketing only comes after the amount of money because
Yeah.
you don't have a
Well,
a PR
if you know
if you
how to-
have money. Like
No,
you
if
had
know-
an accountant.
If you know how to
too.
do good marketing, you start with a Kickstarter, you get people to donate, and you roll with that
Oh,
and
you
stuff
see,
like
yeah,
that. So what
too,
I'm getting
especially if
at
you have
though
a
is like
Wolfen
it sounds
program.
just like any other CEO of a company
yeah.
that we don't really like or whatever and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. It's
Yep.
it's kind of like he started out rooted, and I'm not agreeing with the fact that he's using religion as his marketing
Yeah, if he was
platform
if he
because
was
that's a little like,
running a
come on,
store
dude.
or
Like,
I
there's
mean,
a
let's start with
cult.
the slogan. Of
Yeah,
course, the
it's like-
fruit
Yeah,
of spirit.
Yeah, we serve
Yeah.
the fruit of the spirit.
The fruit of the
Ask us about it or
yeah,
something
of
like that.
course. You
Yeah.
have obviously someone helping you out with this psychologically, like you want to bring people in, you want to have people support your ideology. And it's crazy
Yep.
how you could find people that have nowhere to belong. Hey, these people took me and they took care of me. They bought me a house and for my family.
oh, I'm sure you'll find a plethora of success stories from
Yeah,
this.
well, definitely.
In the same example where it was like, I was
I mean,
in
I
a
would
tough
argue
place.
Spriggs was a success story.
Well, no, I just
Yeah.
Even if he was a horrible, evil person.
Well, I mean, in the
Yeah.
sense of like people that were like, I was in a bad place and I joined this program and it actually got me to a better place. And then I moved on with my life. And blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, so really no harm, no foul? And they're like, no, not really.
Yeah.
And then there's like the extreme side of it where it's like, parents not just kind of spanking their kids. They're getting so involved in the program, they're almost pushing it to the point where now you got the CEO going, well, I guess we have to
Cater to this.
we're catering to the extremes now
Yeah.
as well and stuff because these people are taking it to the extreme and I'm not going to turn
They're
down
my
the
leaders,
opportunity of making more money and if they're cool with it. And that's where I kind of have this like cult leader thing. I throw up in the air a little bit as far as I would juggle a classic cult with it and stuff just because I see more of a CEO marketing technique behind it versus a person that's got some religious fanatic that's all about that and he's going to make you like go like we were
that's
saying
what he
on break
wants you
like
to
kill
say, too.
people and this and that and
Because he's charming
Yeah,
and
well, and the
obviously
business is
very
charming. They're
open. Like
cute and they're
you either
kind.
want to be with us or you don't want to be with us.
And it's fine if you don't want to. We don't want to pressure you.
It's okay, baby.
Well,
just come over.
Do
Kick it.
you got anything you want to plug, Eunice, before we get out of here?
Wait, plug what?
Plug your where your work is, where people can find you.
Oh, so
your
yeah,
art.
if you guys need some jewelry,
Jolly.
yeah, you could find me on Instagram. It's EDPDSGN. Yeah, customized jewelry, whatever you guys want,
Hit her
involving silver or leather. That is.
Yeah, she'll make you.
What
something
about silver leather?
dope.
You could do that. You
Make
could
you
put some.
something
I've actually made
sexy.
some belts with some silver on it. Yeah.
Nice.
okay.
And Sean, where can people find you on the internet?
Ooh.
Where would you like to be found?
Involvement with the Merit Parcel, Fourth Corner.
Just put it on Google Maps.
Yeah, you'll find a big old pinpoint in Hayfork.
Or you can find our deli, the Merit Deli.
Yeah, starting
The
out
Yellow
small.
Mary Deli.
Yeah.
I got the bus and a small following. All
Hell
we're
yeah.
looking for is more, and
I
we
hope
can
it's
help
just a
you.
black van
If
ready
you like to
for
put in a little work for a
kidnapping.
place to stay, that's
Yeah.
hit me up.
Find us on the road.
Let's kidnap some people. Start a cult.
We
I
can't
don't know.
kidnap. They have to come of their own volition.
Oh, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
it's all voluntary if you want to come hear our sermon. I mean, music.
Yeah. And so if you guys would like to join the cult Black Sheep and Bad Apples or Merit Parcel, you can find us online. You can find me on Facebook, Black Sheep and Bad Apples, Lauren O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter. I don't remember my handle though, so I guess I shouldn't have mentioned it.
It's all under the Fourth
It's
Corner
okay.
Cult family.
We'll post it up.
Yeah, share to your friends. We got Anchor, Spotify, all that good shit. And this has been
Hit like.
our very dark episode.
This was fun. Thank you guys so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
This
you.
was really good.
Yeah, don't forget to hit the like,
Oh, yeah.
subscribe, share, or leave us a comment.
And as usual, thank you guys for listening. We've had a blast. I personally have, and we will talk at you guys soon.
Yeah, you talk a lot.
Be safe, have fun. Fuck you.